been looking forward to this, introducing you to everybody because more people need to know who you are. Um, I think I think a lot of people who've been in the insurance industry for even a short amount of time understand that a person who has issued $1 million in a calendar year off their own pen are in short supply around the country. Like they're out there, but it's a pretty primo. I mean, President's Club is a primo group, and then $1 million producer is a notable set above. And then there's another set on people that have done that not just once or twice. Daniel, how many times have you hit $1 million off your own personal pen?
Um, 6 years now, 5 years, 6 years, something like that. They're starting to run together, Gabe. Just like,
Five solid years of with maybe six.
yeah,
I don't know. But dude, multiple years hitting $1 million and then a whole bunch of annuity production in between. And you have just I mean, we're going to talk about annuities today, just been crushing it on annuity. I think in the last week and a half, you've closed, well, like almost 800,000
yeah.
in annuity business. And so I think $1 million this month in annuity business is not an exaggeration. I think you're going to blow past it. And so, I mean, I want people to know you. I want them to hear your story a little bit. Definitely want us to focus on the annuities, but I feel like we'd be robbing people if they didn't know kind of your background because I think they hear $1 million and they assume, well, you just must have a gift from God when it comes to selling. And truth be told, some of that journey was pretty rough. So, dude, let people, how long have you been in the industry? How did you get in?
Yeah, 2017, something like that, is when I first got introduced to it. And I mean, I had a guy that was basically reaching out to me from whenever I was working at Verizon, and he's like, "Hey, you should do this." And I'm like, "Why?" He said, "Because you can make more money than what you're doing now." I'm like, "Really?" So I took a look into it, and it sparked my interest, dude. And the rest was pretty much history. I didn't really look back afterwards.
Yeah, dude. What was that first year like? I think when people hear
Oh,
multi-million dollar producer, like I'm curious. I always want to hear the story, dude. What was that first year like in insurance? Did you crush it? Was it a struggle?
first year was complete trash, Gabe. I would have made more money if I was flipping burgers at McDonald's than my first year in the insurance industry. After like, I was complete trash. I was. First month, I issued, I don't think I sold anything my first month. And I think my second month I sold like 5K. And then my third after that, I did like seven. So I was a late bloomer, dude. I was a really late bloomer.
What was the click for you? How long did it take and what was like maybe the catalyst that made it click to where you started consistently writing business?
Well, so not long after I started, they had a conference, and I went to it. I'm like, okay, I'm going to use the last little bit of money that I've got to get to this conference because they said I'm going to be robbing myself if I don't. So I knew I had a few other commissions coming in, so I'm like, okay, just about emptied my bank account to get to a conference. And I had one conversation with one dude that stuck out over the course of 3 days, and he basically told me, he said, "Look, dude." You're selling, and there's a lot of opportunity to make a lot of really great money in this business. And he said, "You're really sharp, you know what you're doing, but when you transition to the mindset of serving as opposed to selling, you'll make a lot more money." And I said, "Okay, yeah, what does that mean? I'm serving families. This is what we do. I've got the lingo, I've got the mindset." He said, "No, no, 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 stop. How often do you put yourself in the other person's shoes? How often do you, like, for 30 minutes to an hour live their lifestyle and really become empathetic to their situation? How often do you put yourself in their place and say, hey, if it was, that person's spouse or that person's daughter looking for you whenever you weren't there anymore, like what would you do?" And start selling from, or really serving from, their point of view as opposed to your own, and start diagnosing as opposed to selling. Tell them what
Mm.
the options are that they can help them with, diagnose the solution, and then give them the option, the best way to protect their family, and relinquish a lot of the control to them to make the decision, but help them make the decision by serving them. And after that, it just clicked. It was the first month after that, I had my first 30K month. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense. And then it started scaling slowly from there.
It's crazy how many agents I've heard that from at this point, who I always, to this day, I expect it to be something about leads. I expect it to be some kind of tactical thing, but it's always, I changed the way that I was thinking about serving the people I was on the phone with. And that's what made it change for me. So I get it. Dude, why do you want to hit 1 million in a year? What put that bug in your ear?
Well, Gabe, I got sick and tired of just where I was, and I knew I wanted to do more, and I I don't know what it was, man. You can call it victim of your environment. You can say whatever you want to call it. But I started hanging around a lot of people that were producing an awful lot, and they were writing an awful lot of money, right? And you know, uh, leadership 101, right? Show me your five closest friends. I'll show you your future. I started making it a point to hang out with a lot of people that were writing an awful lot of business, and I found out there was nothing different from them to me. Like they weren't any more special than I was, and they didn't have any more special giftings or talents than I did. So I started really just kind of hanging around them, listen how they talk, listen how they act, listen how they attack and approach the business. And I said, okay, well, if they can do it, why couldn't I? So I just made the conscious decision to do it. And once I made the decision, the outcome was, I mean, ultimately the result of hitting it. So
You probably have one of the craziest first year million stories that I've ever heard, as far as like what you started spending on leads and how rough it got and then how it turned around. So, dude, real quick, tell everybody what the strategy was to hit 1 million those first couple months and then how that went and then how you changed it up to make it happen.
yeah, so brief disclaimer, Broadway disclaimer here. Don't do what I did. Please don't. Don't do what I did. I tried to outspend my talent and tried to outspend my problem by just throwing money at it and just like, okay, if I just throw an exorbitant amount of money at this thing, I'm gonna come out on top. It just is what it is, which I mean, to a certain extent is true, but I took it overboard. I started with two different dialers, CRM systems, and leads. I was spending 50K a month for the first 3 months whenever I first started hitting 1 million. And um, I was spending way too much in leads whenever it
Dude,
came to
say the
that.
number. I want to hear you say it, dude.
It was 50K. I said it was 50K. 50K a month, dude. It was 4K or no, it was 10K a week in leads and another 10K in back office administration, dialers, all that good stuff. It was complete trash, like throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what stuck. And I mean, I was writing enough to cover what I was spending, but I I was my own bottleneck. I was my own funnel at that point and I couldn't get to all the leads. I was stressing myself out trying to find out how I was going to pay for this while I was writing this. It was a lot of extra unneeded pressure, right? And then that's when I had a meeting with my mentor and I just kind of talked to him and he said, "Okay, pump the brakes, dude. Like bring back your spending a lot." And it was weird. The minute that I started cutting back my spending, um, and I mean, I more than cut my spending in half. But the minute that I cut that back, I started writing more. And then 6K months they just kind of started flowing. It was like clockwork after that.
For your last few years, because this is also very impressive to me, dude, what were you spending the last few years to hit 1 million in personal production? What was your monthly spend?
Dude, it's weird. The last few years, my spend has actually gone down because of the network that I've built. A lot of the business I do now is referral business. A lot of it's networking. So when you do a lot to serve somebody and you solve their problems, like you solve rich people problems, they pay bigger or they pay better. But whenever you solve enough problems and you're like, hey, I got this dude, or I got rid of this dude's $180,000 tax bill, or hey, I showed this guy how to redirect money from X, Y to Z or whatever. It's like, okay, they got friends that all hang out and know other friends in that same scenario. Like the people that I was hanging out the first year I wanted to hit 1 million, like they were all in that same group. These same people that were in these upper echelon financial situations, they all hung out together too. So as I continued to progress, my lead spend actually went down. And it just kind of turned into a really large referral based business overall. Like I think Greg Shapiro mentioned this as well. He said, just kind of be like the guy. And what I mean by that is like somebody goes to you to find a solution for somebody else. You need a realtor, hey, I know a guy. You need a tax guy, hey, I know a guy. You need a TPA, I know somebody. You refer people out, and that business always comes out tenfold. And what I found, dude, is that you start giving more away, you start getting like I'd say at least 5 to 10x that in return. Like giving those resources out, don't expect anything in return. Start becoming buddies with those people. They start bringing it back to you. So,
Dude.
but yeah,
The
lead
way
spin has
the
gone
way it
down.
should be, man.
Yeah,
The way it should be. It's crazy to think that you hit millions of dollars. How many people continue spending just huge amounts? They never unlock what you're talking about. And you're spending what a lot of people spend to hit PC. And you're spending that to hit 1 million a year because you unlocked how to get the referral business. And so, dude, huge. Dude, going into annuities, because that's really what I hear you talk about. But I wanted people to know who was talking. So I really wanted them to get the backstory. There's obviously a ton of value you could get from you, dude. When did annuities, because you've written consistently 5, 6, 7, 8 million a year of annuity business along with that life business.
yeah.
Like, when did annuities start to unlock and what made it such a big deal for you?
It was the first annuity I ever did. It opened up my eyes to it. I was writing this guy, trying to help him out with an IUL, and we got him set up. He loved the idea of it, and he came back and asked me a question that just kind of threw me off guard. He's like, "Hey, man, do you guys have like do anything with like large sums of money?" I said, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Yeah, I've got like, I retired from my job. I got this, that, and the other. I got 360 grand just sitting in this account. I don't know what to do with. Can you help me out with that?" I'm like, uh, sure. Okay. You know what? Let's set up something for the same time next week and I'll get something together for you. And he's like, okay, yeah, sounds good. And I said, you know what? That'll be a great time for me to give you your paperwork too for your policy. Make sure all that stuff's good. He's like, okay, yeah, that's great. Cool. So I was scrambling for the next week, try to find out what in the world I could do with this guy's 360 grand. And made a couple of phone calls, found it's an annuity. It's right underneath my nose. And this guy's like throwing money at me. And that was my first one. So I wrote it up. And funny story, I actually had the carrier rep for our like group at the time was on the phone with me telling me how to write up the application. Like he was double and triple check. I'm like, like, it's not like a glorified TO, but I would put this client on mute and then I'd pick up my other phone and call this guy. I'm like, hey, am I doing this right? He's in the back office checking it, make sure all my numbers are correct, checking my sources, making sure it's going to pass suitability and everything. And I'm scrambling because I don't know what the heck I'm doing. But the carrier, one of the guys at the carrier is walking me through how to do this while I'm doing it live. And he's like, yeah, dude, you're good. And I'm like, okay, so now we're going to go to this next step. Hey, what do I do? And then we're just filling it out. And I had the carrier guy double and triple check everything. He said, yeah, hit submit. I'm like, okay. I'm like, yeah, Miss So and so, we're done. Congratulations, man. I'll give you your paperwork soon. He's like, okay, great. Thank you so much. When do I transfer the money? I'm like, well, you got to pass suitability first. Hold on. I can't just give this to you. Wait a minute now. You got to pass. You got to get approved. He's like, oh, yeah, I knew that. I'm sorry. Just let me know when I do. I said, yeah, I'll give you a call back then. He's like, okay. Hung up with him, picked up the other phone. I said, dude, what did I just do? He's like, hit submit. You're done. Like, that's it. I'm like, okay. So I hit submit. And it was maybe like 2 minutes later, he said, dude, it's already through suitability. Now we just got to fund it. I'm like, okay, this is cool. So then the paycheck came through. And once the money hit my account, it became real for me. I'm like, I know it's kind of stupid to say, but I'm like, why don't I just sell these? It makes so much more sense. It was like 4 times the amount I made on the IUL, and it put the guy in a better situation. So I'm like, hey, this is cool, but one of these equals 4 or 5 of these. Why don't I just do that? He said,
Yeah.
okay. So that's how it really happened. I stumbled into it.
You made a comment to me that I've echoed many, many times, which is once you figured out annuities, leads changed because leads used to be the things that led to mortgage sales, to final expense sales, IUL sales, but then those sales became leads. You stopped looking for that wasn't the goal anymore. The goal became annuities and all your sales started becoming leads.
Yeah.
And I mean, Daniel, is it fair to say that each year that you hit a million, you made more from annuities than you did from life insurance sales those years?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, the life insurance sales kept the lights on. The annuity money is what I was able to do all the other stuff with. That's your vacation money, that's your recruiting money, that's your bonusable money that you can do whatever you want to with. That's your like setup money. Life insurance pays the bills, annuity money does you can do whatever you want to with that.
Yeah. Paul, I've been hogging it and I can't imagine a better person to interview you because I don't think Paul gets his flowers enough. You guys that don't know, Paul was the top sales rep at multiple companies for years for life and killed it in annuities. So Paul, I've been hogging it. Take it away, bro.
Dude, I like it when you hog because I get to take notes and it just helps me kind of reflect on some things that I needed to be better at training and teaching and implementing. Broadway, absolutely love that, dude. And we go way back, right? I remember I was thinking about this as you were talking, like, and going through kind of the stages and sequence of progression in this business. I remember us having a conversation at an event, and one thing I remember about you is how you made me feel. Like you just had such a heart of like edification, appreciation, gratitude. And I mean, I've spoken to a lot of people that have come up and I've had conversations for years at events and conferences, but um, I felt like you had just this ability to connect and make people feel special. And I think that's something that you probably have used quite a bit in selling life in annuities because I remember it, right? People will forget what you say, but they won't forget how you make them feel. I want to highlight a couple things and then I got a question for you because there's probably some people on here that are like, annuities, it just that word, all of a sudden their brain goes into like complexity. Like there's so much involved in what it looks like. And so I really want to kind of start with like how simple they are, like as far as explaining them, and then what the simple process is. Because I had a chance to spend a couple days with Gabe, and we were talking about the organization, really the impact players that are really providing great value. That's you. I mean, you provided such great value, and everybody that's on here, they need to know how they can actually find the money and then how you can play that role. But I just want people to be encouraged. The process that you talked about, Daniel, is pretty common. Like I think about myself, 18 years ago, starting out not spending enough on leads. And I was just trying to squeeze everything because if you said $20 on a lead, man, that was to me, I was connecting it because I was 19. That's a full hour of me pumping a septic tank, bro. Like that's a lot of work, man. Like I'm in the heat, I'm digging holes, and I smell crap. Like it's a tough hour. You mean to tell me I got to spend an hour worth of work? So like I had to go through this process of going from like an employee mindset to like this employer mindset of entrepreneurial building a business. And so I remember like trying to squeeze, everything out of it. And I spent so much time squeezing, not enough time serving. And so for somebody on here, everybody's at a different stage. This is a bigger call. You got to ask yourself, are you in that stage where you're just squeezing everything out? Like, man, I've only called at least 73 times, man. Like they said to call them back. Like I got 7 people to call back this week. Like you're trying to justify the potential sales you think will come from squeezing. And then you switch. And I remember being the person that's like, oh, dude, I'm gonna invest like, $17,000 in leads this week. Like I'm gonna throw it all back in and grow this thing. And it's like, okay, yes, it was easy to grab a lot of low-hanging fruit, but there was some fruit you could have also grabbed if you would have just, I guess went on your tippy toes, but you didn't do it, right? And so I think there's that person as well. And then the fine line is where you find like, okay, like I'm not squeezing too much, but I'm actually able to work and truly resolve each lead because this is not just a lead, this is a family. And so if you're getting too many families to serve, then you have the ability to serve them. Well, you're kind of doing a disservice to you and them, right? Because their profitability is going to suffer. But then you kind of find that fine line of like, okay, I'm getting the right amount of leads. And usually that we say that's between $1,000 and $2,000 a week in leads if you're working in the right way, right? Not $50,000, right? But you gotta, everybody on here, don't, you gotta look at yourself. Like, where are you at? I think on a call like this, you gotta, take notes, but you also gotta, or you gotta take notes and you gotta make notes. Taking notes is like, okay, lead investment. Making notes is like, where am I at? Because you don't want to be like, oh, I could squeeze more because maybe you're squeezing too much. So you got to kind of find that fine line. And I think that once you get to a place like this is the thing I think so beautiful about this business, and this is just a word of encouragement for everybody on here. Once you get a year, 2, 3 years in, you get to start to build a book. Like most people that are in business and whatever it is, it could be real estate. Like the first several years, man, it's a dogfight. Why? Because there's no leads. So they have to go out there and prospect and prospect and prospect. And if they can actually like just survive long enough, they'll eventually get to a place where if they built a good book and they've serviced it right and exceeded expectation, that book becomes raving fans. And those raving fans lead you to being the guy, like you said, which I love that. Like you become the guy if you've not just met expectation, but you've exceeded it. And a lot of times it's just service, it's empathy. It's shown that you love them and you care for them and all these other things. But now that book, you could reduce your lead investment because you've got referrals calling you, which is just another form of a lead that you only can have when you get a book. And now your investment goes from here to here, but you're still writing the same. Well, that gap is profitability, right? And that's what you start to develop. Kind of talk about, I guess, two things. One, I'd really love to hear maybe a point or two that you think that you've done that helps exceed expectation for a life client, because I think the best lead is a life lead, a mortgage protection, final expense, just a life insurance, like a lead of somebody looking for life insurance. I found that to be the best annuity lead. How do you exceed expectation where they want to talk to friends and family? Because the person, I'm not telling my friend and family member about, a restaurant that just hits expectation. But man, if I go there and when I leave, they're giving me like, like a nice like, Danish that I can eat on the way home. They got a nice little quote or letter in there. Whatever, if they could do something to exceed expectation. If I'm having a glass of wine at the very end, they bring over a special bottle and say, "Hey, you got to taste this." And like I'm like, "Oh, I didn't expect that." Like then I'm being like, "Bro, Broadway, you got to check this place out, dude." Because I know when you go check that place out, you're going to experience what I've experienced, and what you I experienced was significant. Well, now you're going to appreciate me, and our relationship gets enhanced because I actually just pointed you towards something that's going to give you just an unbelievable experience. You've created a raving fan. So maybe talk about some things that you've done real quick that have helped create a raving fan, because I think that's the first entry point to get that door opened, where you now have the ability to service them in other areas because they rave about you.
Yeah, I mean that's a great question, man. And uh you'll what I can speak from personal experience. What I've found is that that bar is actually really low in a world of extremely lazy, for lack of a better term, right? No, present parties excluded, all 200 people that are on this call here. We're not talking about you guys. But in an industry as a whole where you find that the average agent is extremely lazy,
Yeah.
it's not really hard to raise that bar. And this is what I mean. Like, this was the one thing that changed for me. Whenever I put myself in that client's position, when I put them in their shoes, like, okay, they're receiving a phone call from some random guy that they don't know from Adam that's going to be talking to them about what's going to happen to them whenever they die. I've got to make sure that they 100% can trust me. Well, number one, like me, but can also trust me
Yeah.
and know that I'm going to be there for their family when they're not anymore. And it's really hard to do that over a 30-minute phone call. But the simplest way that I found to do it is just simply do what you say you're going to do. And it's not really hard. You don't overpromise and underdeliver for the client if you do exactly what you say you're going to do. Like if I'm calling Jason and I say, Jason, hey, look, man, I'm going to make sure that your family gets that check when you're not here, when you're not there anymore. And even if I'm not the one to hand deliver it because you're all the way out in Georgia and I'm in South Carolina, or whatever that looks like, I'm going to make sure that, Mel has that check in her hand if something were to ever happen to you. Okay, cool. But if I can't even follow up and say, hey, you actually have the policy in your email when I told you you were going to have it, how much more likely are you going to believe me when you're not here anymore? Sure, you got the policy and you're relying on the insurance carrier's reliability. But if I can't do exactly what I say I'm going to do, how much trust is there? You probably just think, oh, he might just be there for the sale. He might just be there for the money. He might just be for this, that, and the other. But if you just do exactly what you say you're going to do, meet the expectations that you personally set with the client, it'll go a long way. It'll go a lot further. And then you can start having more sophisticated conversations like, hey, we got your family taken care of. Now, no, you said that you got that old 401k, Paul. Like, that thing's just kind of sitting there for you, right? Like it's going to do one of three things. It's either going to go up, it's going to go down, it's going to stay the same. Now, if I could get rid of one of those three options, which one would you want me to get rid of, Paul?
Going down.
Yeah, nobody wants their money to go down, right? So we've already transferred the risk from your income not being here anymore for your family. Why not transfer that same going down risk to the same insurance company we were working with and make sure you never lose a dime in the market again? There's a strategy for that if you'd like to take a look at it. If you want to learn more about that, I can show you how to do that. Because I built the value with you on the front end, because I did everything I said I was going to do, and because I just simply met the expectations that I set, you're probably more likely to trust me with your retirement while you're here, as well as trusting me with your family's well-being to make sure they get that check when they're not here anymore. Is that going to help answer? Does that kind of make sense?
It does, dude. Perfect. And for everybody on here, like the way you explain that to the client and break it down, like go up, stay the same, go down, guys, that's an index annuity. Like, and you don't have to become like, know the caps and spreads and participation. Like, that's so irrelevant where it's so easy to get caught in the weeds and you don't even need to get caught in those. And so, if you just know these simple things, you can find the money, right? Like, what do you have in place that would act like life insurance when you pass away? Like 401k, IRAs, mutual funds, stocks, not do you have something? It's what do you have, right? Like, just that small phrase made a difference for me because when you say, do you have, they're like, ah, no. Like, even if they do, they just kind of like, I don't want to get into it. No, I don't. But if you say, what do you have? Now their brain is going to work, finding what they do have that would act like life insurance. And then once you've got that money, it's like, well, how much, how much does that look like when you pass? How much would be going to your beneficiary from the 401k? Would it be like 100 grand, 200 grand? Oh, I got about $250,000 in that old 401k. And then you just go into that exact question. Well, that 401k is going to do one of three things, and how much of that could you afford to lose? That those kind of things that preempt it. Like, is there any other kind of like for somebody on here, and maybe they've already got some clients. Daniel, there might be somebody on here that's brand new. Then you got somebody on here that's been here for like 3, 6 months, and maybe you got somebody that's been here for 1, 2 years, right? Like the person that's already got a couple policies on the books, maybe they've been here for a couple months. How can they call back those clients and have a conversation where, for one, it actually exceeds expectation? Because, like you said, man, the bar is so low. Like, if you just call a client back, dude, you've exceeded expectation. Because there's not been one time they bought life insurance from anybody where they called back. Like, that person just vanishes. Like, they're gone, right? Like, they're gone. And so when you just call back and check in, and guys, the side note, I think put down some notes in your CRM about that client, because like you'll forget. Like if they said, oh, in small talk and rapport building, they're like, I got my kid's soccer game this weekend. And when you call back in and say, man, Daniel, how's it going, man? Like, hey, by the way, real quick, dude, how's your kids doing in soccer? Boom, dude, you just exceeded expectations. Just that question alone, they're like, this guy remembers, this guy cares. And then you can go into like, hey, just want to do a quick review for you guys. It's been a couple months. Most people forget what they had in place, and you go through that, and then you go into that question. Like, what are some of these questions that they could ask just to help find the money, and kind of then also go from finding it to maybe the next step of setting up a call where maybe you can kind of come in and help out. Um, like, what does that process look like?
Yeah. So um, I think the biggest one would um, trying to word this accurately as well as being as sensitive to the client's needs as possible, right? But what I'll do is I'll just kind of reach back out and be like, obviously take the notes. Everything that you said there's stinking perfect, dude. But if I was calling back, I'd be like, hey, Gabe, how's everything going with you and your family? All that good stuff. On my end, I just wanted to reach out as a point of concern. A lot of my clients have actually been calling me back saying that they've expressed some concern as where the current market is right now. And I'm just reaching back out to all my clients to making sure that's not anything that you may possibly be worrying about. Because if so, I've actually helped a lot of my clients secure tons of their retirement accounts already. Is that something that could be potentially keeping you up at night? And if so, you've got that solution. But it's just starting the conversation with them and talking to them like they're a human being. And as weird as that sounds, so many people look at people as sales, instead of just continually serving them as people. I looked at every single lead sheet, and every one of them had a number, right?
Yeah.
So every number has a name. Every name has a story, and every story matters. And when you can tap into those stories, you start putting yourself in the position of what life might look like if those funds weren't there, what life might look like if you didn't do what you said you were going to do 6 months or a year ago, you know? So every number has a name, every name has a story, and every story matters. I always think about that every time I'm calling a lead. And whenever you start doing that, it's really hard to get mad if somebody tells you, no, I'm good. I'm like, okay, you served that client to your fullest ability. Like you helped them. And then they're good. You've got peace of mind to go on to the next one. Now, granted, I know we're all here to make money, right? But at the end of the day, what I found is when your heart posture is in that position to try to solve more problems for the people that you do work with, you end up making more. It doesn't matter. Like when your focus is not the paycheck, it's the person, you end up you end up having a higher gross income at the end of the year than you would have if you were just chasing money. If that makes sense.
Yeah, bro, it's so good. I mean, I think that applies to everything, guys. When it's about you, you will always underperform. It's like even speaking. If you're going to go out and you're so nervous to speak on a stage, it's because you're worried about what others are going to think about you and perceive you if you say something off or whatever, or you mess up. Like, how are they going to see you? Well, that's about you, right? That's the ego part. I think that's a separator, Daniel, for a lot of people that have not stepped in and had this conversation with clients about annuities is because it's about them. Well, I don't know enough. Well, I need to know more about this. No, no, no. You need to go and just open the door because imagine if the client, right now has two, 300,000, they're 60 years old, and then all of a sudden the market corrects, and at 81, they're back at Walmart as a greeter. Those Walmart greeters, they're not just bored. Like, I just wanted to go greet people. No, like maybe their 401k ran out. Maybe the stock market took a shift, and because of negative return risk, they outlived their money. But if they would have had a solution, if they would have had a Daniel or somebody reach out to them 15 years ago and give them a solution where that downside is no longer there and they're protected against negative return risk, now they're in a better position. So, dude, that is such a big point. I hate to beat it up, but guys, I promise you, if you're so focused on knowing more, it's not about how much you know, it's how much you care. And so if you can even before you call a client, imagine like I would look at clients, lead, I'd be like, okay, Bob, Mary. Bob doesn't come home tomorrow. Mary, and I just come up with scenarios like Mary now has kids. She's going to be having to figure out like how to provide for the family. She's going to lose, she have to go work two jobs. Now the kids lost daddy and they lost mommy because mommy's working two jobs. They're going to lose their house. The house is the number one source of security for children. And so they lost dad and they're going to lose the place that they call home. Like losing a home, it's not just a house, it's a home. This is where they've been raised. This is where the atmosphere is set for their family. Like that now they've got this lack and now mom's struggling and now poverty starts to trickle down. And poverty is a great wrecking ball through, the ability to have a character in the right life and all of these things. So I'm telling myself, so when I call this person, like, dude, how can I think about me? Like, dude, I'm about to like, and so I think it's the same thing. Did you really hit that? Like really seeing it from the client's viewpoint and what could happen. So now you're not so nervous about saying, what do you have in place that acts like life insurance?
Well, I mean, I've got a personal story about that one too, and I think anybody like, dude, you've had death claims filed. Gabe,
Yep.
you both have like everybody's been in the industry long enough. You've had it, Jason. I know you, Travis. You guys, you've all had death claims filed, right? But and I'll ask you guys this: like, have you ever had a living benefit claim filed? I had one. And whenever I started to see it, it made living benefits become more real to me because the
Yep.
guy that was actually like had the claim was in my hometown. I worked out with him. I saw him in the gym every single day. Like I knew his kids. I hung out with his family. I'm like, this client turned into a friend. And, you know, guy's 36 years old, gets renal failure. What are you going to do? Now it's like, okay, I got to make sure that, all my stuff is up to snuff. But I say that being um, transitioning into the annuity side, whenever you start seeing something and you have a real experience with it, it becomes even more real. When you have that personal experience, it becomes real. And my uncle is in the Air Force, right? He served 20 some odd years career, 20 some odd years reserves, Air Force, right? Like top notch dude. Jason actually got to hang out with him at my wedding. He's a really great guy, but he would literally give you the shirt off his back if you needed it, like such a servant heart, right? But he had actually a really great 401k program matched with the military. And he was, every time he gave a dollar, military gave a dollar. It was a really great program. Right before 2008 hit, he had a little over 800 grand in that account. Like, dude was set. He was ready to go. He's thinking about retiring, right? After 2008 hit, anybody want to take a guess as to how much was in his retirement account after that?
About 300.
Close, close. Right around 470. Dude almost had 50% of his account wiped out in one day. And this is my uncle. This is a guy that I call family. This is like negative 12. Yeah. But this is somebody who I could have helped, right? Or like at the time, if I was licensed around then, I could have, like, I have a solution for this guy. And I found out that my own uncle went through something like this. He's getting close to retirement age now, and he just now has upwards of 700,000 in his account. So he hadn't even like made it back to par with some of the different things that he had to do, some of the different strategic moves he had to pull out. He didn't make it back to where he could have been.
Wow.
And I don't take responsibility for that by any means because I couldn't do anything. I wasn't licensed. I get it. But if I can help prevent somebody else from getting in that situation and not having too much month at the end of the money, how much better of a position can I put them in? Because I got to see my uncle live it. I got to see like what that feels like, what that does to a family. And now I get to know that every single person that I have a conversation with has the opportunity to not be in that position moving forward. So it always hits home when it hits home, right? It becomes real. And just because you're, for lack of a better term, afraid of looking like an idiot in front of somebody for asking a question or screwing up or something, or you don't have enough knowledge to ask about it yet, you could be preventing somebody else from being in the position my uncle was in if you got a little vulnerable and asked a question. Your duty is to protect their most valuable asset at the time, which is their house. Yes, of course, but wouldn't it also be part of your job responsibility if your license gave you the opportunity to protect their retirement? Don't those two kind of fall hand in hand? Sure, one they're going to get when they're not here anymore. And you could argue living benefits. Yeah, they'll get those too. That's great. But what happens whenever they run out of money in their 401k and then all of a sudden Joe ends up passing away, Mary ends up getting that check, and you find out then that his 401k just ran out, but you had a solution to solve them back then, you just didn't ask. What happens then? You've got the power to do it, and I've never seen a company that's provided more resources to make it easy for you, almost so easy for you to ask these questions. I almost feel like sometimes familiarity breeds contempt a little bit, but we don't want to do that, right? We want to make these options open for you guys to make asking the retirement questions so easy that you have the opportunity to serve every single person that you come across with just a little bit of help.
Dude, so good, man. I think for everybody on here, if you're like, man, why don't I have a story? You borrow the story until you get one, right? It's kind of like not to over spiritualize, but it's like, my daughter had stage 4 cancer um, when she was 11 years old. When I didn't have a testimony yet, I was borrowing other people's testimony. I remind myself of the story and God's promise to heal her. Now I've got one. Does it hit more home? Oh, yeah, way more home. But I borrowed from other stories until I was able to actually get to a position and a place where I've got my own. And so I think for everybody on here, like this is a story. You write down Daniel's story and you talk to clients about that, right? Because stories is what you want to use to help, take the pressure off you. It's always easier to tell a story than try to get like facts and statistics and all that kind of stuff. That stuff doesn't work anyways. There's not much emotion behind that stuff at all. And so those stories are powerful. And I think it's just the consistency. As you were talking, Daniel, I was thinking about like my first annuity I ever sold. It was, I remember being 19 years old and I was very coachable, right? Like you tell me to do something and you've got a bigger bag of money or that bag is more full in whatever area of life that I'm trying to get mine full of, I would do it. You'd be like, Paul, go stare at that window for 2 hours. I'm like, all right, I guess staring at windows, is what 60K producers do. I'm gonna go stare at the window. Maybe there's something here. Like I didn't question stuff. I was like, I'm in. Like, you know what I mean? And so I asked the question every single time, like, what do you have in place to act like? And then I'd ask it the same thing at the end. Well, of that much money, how much could you afford to lose? Well, none of it. Well, if there was a product out there that would be able to help eliminate downside risk, but you'd still participate in upside, would that be something that you'd be interested in, like most families? And I kind of, and they said yes. I said, well, listen, I don't have time now. What I could go in and do is set up a time. I'm going to give it to experts in the office. They're going to go ahead and put together a black and white illustration. I'll be able to come back and just kind of show you what that looks like, so you could really, actually physically see what it would look like to eliminate downside risk. And how important that would be for you, like it is most families. That's what I do. I remember doing it, and this guy's like, dude, I'm not interested in that. I got an advisor, blah, 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 right? Well, I get a phone call. This is back in '07 because I did it right at the gate. 2009 comes. This guy calls me. He's like, hey, man, uh, can you tell me about what you were talking about? And I didn't remember who he was, dude. Now I took good notes on all my lead sheets back then. It was all physical. Like it wasn't a CRM. I had to write down like their situation. Like I had it all, and then I would scan it in and I'd save it in my Dropbox, right? So I had to go look up the guy's name, found his lead. I had all my Dropbox in my notes to the Dropbox, and I was like, okay, got it. And so I went out there, and that was my first annuity I had ever wrote, and it was from a seed I planted that was an absolute no in the beginning, but I popped up in his head when he thought like, oh shoot, I just lost $150,000, which is what triggered the phone call to me. Was like, can I stop the bleeding? Like this sucks. This isn't any good. This isn't any fun. And this guy said something about like eliminating negative returns, and I'd like to not have any more negative returns, right? And so I think it's just like, you know, not over like analyzing, just doing the right things and the things that work all the time. Like Daniel, like how many times did you have a bad month in life, but because you were consistent in asking the annuity question, the annuity hit, and all of a sudden a bad month became a great month.
Dude, all the time. More times than I can count, really. Like you keep your pipeline full and annuity money, it's kind of like mailbox money. You know, it kind of surprises you a little bit. It goes through
Yeah.
suitability, let them do. And I had to work with an annuity expert at the very beginning too. You know, like sure, I submitted the application first time around, but I'm like, I'm not going to get on the line with the guys every time to do it. I got to figure this out.
Sure.
So I like worked with an annuity expert to help me do this thing. And he walked through all these different word tracks, all these different things to say, and just posture, just the overall tonality of your voice, all that good stuff. He taught me all of it. And some people could say, well, I don't want to split this, that, and the other. Okay, cool. That's fine. That's funny. But it, in my opinion, it was worth it because it gave me the opportunity to be able to approach the conversation from a more sophisticated mindset. Like I was able to help the clients and knew what I was talking about at that point because I literally got to ride the coattail of somebody else. Like everything I do is like nothing's original. Everything's stolen. Heck, half the stuff I do is probably stolen from you, Paul. Full disclosure, stolen from some of the other guys that have written annuities in the past. Like,
I stole it from somebody else too. It's this
I mean, it's that
generational drip.
it's that tier, yeah. But I mean, there's so many times, so many like that story I was talking to Gabe about. Whenever I got that eviction notice on my door, dude, I'm like, dang, man, it's crazy. Um, I'm like, I mean, it's like one of the toughest things to admit. You're running your own business, but you get a notice from the county on your door that you got to leave. Like, what? This is weird. All of a sudden, annuity comes in, and I pay like 6 months worth of bills up front. I'm great, like it's just it's life changing whenever you decide to get vulnerable and start asking questions and start reaching out for help.
I love that, man. So good. Well, I think anybody on here that's like, okay, I would love to have an expert help me. You've taken on that position where you can help agents go out there if they find somebody, kind of walk them through their first annuity sale. And it's like anything, like once you kind of have that first experience, what you realize is what you thought wasn't, what you thought wasn't was, right? You perceive this to be so complex, and you kind of get walked through like, oh, okay, I kind of do this. But you give the ability to kind of partner with them and help them through that first one. For anybody on here that's, they're like, all right, I've heard this a bunch of times. I'm going to commit to asking one question that's about 13 words if it could really make me six figures. And by the way, guys, it absolutely can. And all it is profit. Like you invest the same amount, you still sell life. Like, if I was making, $400,000 a year on my net sales life, business, annuities, as I kept moving, man, it added like another 200 grand a year to that. It was just pure profit. There wasn't no more investments, no more lead spend. It was just additionally helping clients with another service. How do they do that? Like, what's the step they took? Maybe they even got a client right now. They're like, they did say they had a 400,000 or 4K. I never followed back up with them. I found it. I circled it, but I haven't called them back. Like, what's that step by step process look like to kind of get that support?
Yeah, I mean, you ask, like, we have this on the Annuity 101 training, which is open to anybody at Wednesdays at 12 o'clock noon, too. But anytime that they feel like they have somebody like that, we have them ask that question, what do you have that acts like life insurance? Old 401k, CDs, any IRAs, anything like that, right? And then they go through their entire mortgage protection sale. Keep the main thing. Sell the mortgage protection first, get that knocked out, solve that. After they submit the application for mortgage protection, then they ask the question, you're like, hey, just to keep things, cohesive and simple, I'll just ask them, like, now going back to that old 401k, Gabe, I know you said you had like what, 200, 250K in there, something like that. Is that right? Uh,
Yeah, something like that.
so that old 401, it's from your old job, right? Yeah, it's going to do one of three things. It's either going to go up, it's going to go down, or it's going to stay the same. And, if I could wave a magic wand and just kind of get rid of one of those three options, which one would you want me to get rid of?
Oh, definitely the one where I lose money.
Yeah, I mean, nobody wants to lose money. So, I mean, I've actually got a specialist that a financial strategist, whatever you want to call him. He'd love to be able to help you out with that. If that's something you'd like to learn more about, that'd be okay with you?
Yeah, for sure.
Great. Okay. So set this up for you. Wednesday, 2 o'clock was good for you. Boom. Whatever that's look like. And then just book them on my calendar. Gabe, am I able to, you want me to post that link, post the number? What do you want me to do? You tell me.
Yeah, yeah, post the link, please.
Okay.
And then
Uh,
for people, that's Wednesday, 12 Eastern on this link.
Wednesday, 12 Eastern on this link.
I mean, I think that's a huge part of it too, guys. In the middle of your lunch break or, take some time walking around the block, hey, hop on, stretch your legs and just learn some of these lines, get a little more confident because Paul, I've seen it so many times. I can't imagine how many times you've seen an annuity save somebody's career in this business. Like the power of it is incredible.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean,
percent.
it's insane. You start getting to a certain point to where it's like, okay, like I don't know what I'm gonna do. I spent too much on leads like I did, spending 50K, whatever. Don't do that again. Please don't do that. But yeah, then you start having that pipeline fill, and all of a sudden out of nowhere, you get a message from Pinnacle, hey, we need your banking information. We're about to pay you some more money. Like, wait, what? Oh, this is cool. And then you get that deposit. It's just liberating. It's like that weight gets lifted off your shoulders. Like, okay, I'm back in the game. I can do this. And now I know what not to do. So I was hard-headed. I was always the guy that would touch the hot iron. I'm like, yeah, let me do this. I got this. And then I realized after a couple scars, I'm like, okay, don't touch that. I got it. Okay. So yeah, but it's always saved me.
I
Daniel, this
love.
is phenomenal. Dude, thank you so much for hopping on, pouring in. Dude, you're absolutely destroying. Almost took down 1 million in a week. So that's incredible. Dude, keep crushing. Thank you for serving clients and agents. And we'll see you around, brother.